Hey, if you're a parent of a child with autism, you've likely been told some version of the same disheartening message, and it sounds something like this, like it's just genetic, or there's not much that you can do about it, stick with therapies and hope for the best, right? Those sorts of things. And you've likely tried everything from traditional therapies to biomedical and natural options, and yet the struggles remain, right? So what if the root cause of autism isn't where most people think it is? What if it doesn't actually start in the brain, but rather ends there after beginning deep within the body, specifically the nervous system? This may be the missing piece that you've been searching for. At Renegade Chiropractic, we believe it's time to change the narrative. Autism now affects 1 in 36 children, and the current conventional approaches just aren't cutting it, right? More and more parents are left exhausted and overwhelmed after trying everything from diets and detoxes to therapies like neurofeedback, ozone treatments, and primitive reflex work. These may help for sure, but for many, they're not enough. And that's because there's a deeper layer that's often missed, one that goes beyond the gut-brain axis, beyond inflammation, and beyond the microbiome. The real root cause we see in our office every single week, it's the nervous system stress. Chronic, hidden, long-term nervous system dysregulation, a condition called dysautonomia that's holding kids back from making real lasting progress. And in this video, what we're going to talk about and walk through is how this all happens. We'll explain something called the perfect storm that creates dysfunction, and we'll share the foundational steps that thousands of families have taken to finally start seeing breakthroughs. So let's go ahead and we'll dive in. So I want to share a story with you about a kiddo named Joseph. Joseph had many of the familiar challenges that we've already mentioned: anxiety, sensory processing issues, weak motor tone, and chronic gut problems. His mom had done it all: testing, diet changes, every kind of therapy, multiple specialists. It was always the same story: hard work, little progress, and a kiddo that seemed to be getting worse and not better. Mom basically said that the harder that they pushed, the harder they tried, the more it felt like he was regressing. But everything changed after his first couple of adjustments, which is so cool. Suddenly Joseph was sleeping through the night, his digestion had improved significantly, had more energy, right, and better focus. His coordination clicked into place, and socially he began to engage like he'd never done before. Totally still had those beautiful quirks, but now he was off medications and thriving in school and life. His body was finally in a place where it could heal, which is amazing. So here's the deal. Traditional medicine still treats autism as a primarily genetic issue. Only recently has it begun to acknowledge vague environmental factors, but they rarely define those and what those actually are. Meanwhile, the rates of autism are soaring, and everyone's asking why. And it's because environmental stressors, especially in the earliest phases of life, are having a huge impact on the development of the nervous system. And that's where the concept of the perfect storm comes in. So first thing that happens is high stress pregnancies and fertility struggles. These conditions, essentially they expose developing babies to high levels of cortisol and stress, and those hormones shape a nervous system that is hyper alert and dysregulated from the very beginning. Then there's also birth interventions, inductions, C-sections, forceps, and vacuum extractions can create physical trauma to the cervical spine and brainstem, and then this alters how the messages travel between the body and to the brain, and so that information gets disrupted or doesn't get through the way that it should. It's kind of like a water hose being clogged. Some water gets through, but not enough of that water gets through. And then another big impactor is early chemical exposure. Things like antibiotics, toxins, medications, and even poor gut health from early formula feeding or stress can further damage and stress the nervous system. So these early stressors create the foundation for what we call subluxation and dysautonomia. Subluxation is the chiropractic fancy word for when tension and interference disrupt the way the brain and the body communicate. And dysautonomia is a chronic imbalanced state of the autonomic nervous system where the child stays stuck in a stressed out or a fight or flight mode. So what does this impact? It can impact things like gut issues, sleep problems, meltdowns, speech delays, and sensory overload, and all of it can stem from that stuck, stressed nervous system. So let's talk about the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is very, very important. It's like the body's superhighway between the brain and the gut. It regulates digestion, also regulates rest and calm, and also plays a huge role in speech socialization, emotional regulation, and even immunity. So when stress gets stuck on the nervous system or subluxation is present in the upper neck or in the spinal column, it can create pressure on the vagus nerve, and this reduces its function, and it in turn disrupts not only digestion and immune function, but also communication and behavior and social emotional development. This is why you may see improvement in your child when you focus on gut health. But if the vagus nerve dysfunction is still present, the gut-brain connection is incomplete, and true healing stays just out of reach, right? Some change, but not enough change. So this is where I want to introduce you to something we call the neurodevelopmental hierarchy triangle or pyramid. So look at this pyramid. At the very base of this pyramid is the autonomic nervous system. This is the part that's responsible for regulation, survival, and safety, digestion, sleep, and stress responses, okay? Above that, we have the neuromotor system and sensory motor development. Then above that, we have the gut and immune system. And then above that, we have the cognition and communication. So today, many therapies are targeting this top portion of the pyramid, right? They're focusing only in on that when the foundation is still cracked. Until the nervous system, the autonomic nervous system is balanced and regulated, higher level functions, they just won't develop. The nervous system has to be first. So we know you've tried it all, right? But what if the most important piece has been overlooked? You may have already changed the diet, you've worked on detox and poured your heart and soul into every possible therapy, but if the nervous system is stuck in stress, the body can't, right? It can't get in the state that it needs to heal and grow and adapt. That's why we'd love to invite you to our next Perfect Storm workshop. It's happening on Thursday, May 1st at 7 p.m. right here in our office at Renegade Chiropractic. It's a free workshop, and we're going to dive even deeper into this conversation, walking you through the exact steps to help your child regulate their nervous system, unlock healing, and thrive. So what you can do is you can click the link in our bio or comment below to reserve your seat, or click on the link in the description of the video so that we can continue on this journey with you and your family. See you later.